Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at our second entry in our Flip Tools vlog series. Now, in this case, I'm going to do what's called a digital felt board. Now, I don't know if somebody else has done this before. I'm sure somebody has because a lot of people are smarter than I am. But what I'm basically attempting to do is I'm attempting to mimic this idea of the old school felt board where a board is covered with felt and components are made out of felt, and the friction between them allows them to stick at various places on the felt board. You can move them around, you can adjust them, and you can change them to allow a different look at different times using the same basic objects, just moving in different positions to tell a story. That's the basic idea. So let's get to what I needed it for. What I had was I had a set of gears that we're going to be using for an application problem for linear and angular velocity. Well, the problem is with these gears, there's a lot of moving pieces by default, and it was a little difficult for students to see which gears were doing what because they were stacked on top of each other. So what I wanted to do was kind of figure out a way to make this situation a lot more simple. So clearly a lot is going on. Let's figure out how to make that more simple. So what I did was I went and I created a little bit of a digital felt board presentation. But of course, a good digital felt board presentation needs a little bit of animation. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do a little quick, dirty animation about how to do this. Okay, so the idea here is I have these fixed gear shapes, and I'm going to take those fixed gear shapes and the information provided, but this way I can take a group of those shapes out and talk about just that group, or even move them about or reshape them if necessary. Then when we're done talking about that component, I can expose the math that went along with it or maybe some other information piece about it. When I'm done, I can put it back in the gear arrangement and then pull out the next section and talk about that section, put the math together, maybe even twist it a little bit, and then put the next section out and then put it back and keep on moving. And so I can organize and rearrange each of these components so they can be viewed by the students to be better understood. Now, I called it initially animation, but it's really more of this idea of a felt board process. But the nice thing about the felt board process in digital rather than in real life is A, I don't have to cut a bunch of felt. B, I can go grab pictures or images or drawings or whatever from anywhere and put them together. Additionally, because they are digital, I can also resize them. So by being able to resize them allows me an entirely different set of flexibility to highlight things and get students' attention where students' attention needs to go. So for example, in this case, I have a whole bunch of math historians or people who are historical from math, and I want to connect that with what was going on at a certain time in history. And so what I'm doing is we take a look at Pythagoras, 600 BC. So who should go with Pythagoras? What else was happening in the world at that time? Well, the first thing was Buddha was born. And so with Buddha, we can put him on the timeline and then shrink him down once the kids have seen so he can be a marker on our timeline. The next thing that we might say is, okay, well, what else was happening? Well, a little further down the road, we have the Acropolis. But once we've seen that, we've talked about that a little bit, we can also shrink that and put it down here. All this is using slides, Google Slides. I didn't use anything besides a screencaster and Google Slides to accomplish this. Now, I could resize these and show my mouse moving all over the place, but doing it with the Google Slides situation allowed me to keep things a little bit more simple, make it a bit more of an animation. But again, being able to put these logos anywhere on this board, I wish, but also being able to resize them makes for a great digital felt board. I'll go ahead and put links to those two videos in the description down below. But let's talk about kind of how I made them. So one of the ways that I did this is I simply went and grabbed a picture from my timeline. So I went and grabbed nothing but a picture from the timeline. I put it into Google Slides. There it is. And then I went and found all of the key pictures that I wanted to use as markers on my timeline. Now, one thing I did determine was that I needed to have a secondary slideshow open where I could dump the graphics that I wish to use, and I could resize them or put them in a certain place before copying and pasting them into the actual presentation that would be the finished unit. So I kind of have a work platform or a workspace that's open that I can copy things from, Control X, Control V, etc. All right, so once I've done that, I simply place the items from my clipboard onto my page. And once they're on my page, then all I need to do is step forward or step back. So if you want to take a look at how I kind of animate once I have everything put together, let's take a look at my intro drawing. In this case, very simple, little text box, couple boxes, and my little man. Now, one thing about my little feller is all I have to do is right click and I can group or ungroup the various components. So in this case, he's ungrouped, and as a group is a separate set of shapes. But if I simply grab him and right click, I can group all of them together. Now he acts like one unit. So here's how I'm actually going to animate this for the camera. What I would do is I would get everything set up in its original position, move it, stop it, move it, stop it, move it, stop it, move it, stop it. And then finally, there we go, delete the white box that was hiding my dude that hit his head. Now, that's all it takes to animate, and that's exactly how quick it is. So let's reset everything by using the undo button. At this point, if I were video this, if I were to put it in essence into the production, all I'd have to do is go grab my screencaster, which I can't do because it's currently running doing this screencast. But I grab the screencaster, get rid of some of the menus, or on Screencast-O-Matic, I could even crop the certain area that I wanted only to record. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and record the whole, I could record the whole thing. Once I have all my steps put where they are, instead of going back to reset to the beginning, just go forward. And repeated forward clicks in whatever timing I want means that I can animate this figure forward and back, either way. And so I can record that with the screencaster. But the idea here is this little man, like the felt board, can be moved wherever we wish without worrying about how it's going to work. If I want to move the door, I can simply move the door by selecting all of the door bits and moving them over. So it works out really, really nicely. It's a really quick, dirty way to animate in the sense that there's nothing fancy here. And in fact, I did the original presentation with the gears and the opening animation component in a matter of 45 minutes, having never done this before, having only the idea. So this is not a hard process, and it's not necessarily a process I would use for everything, but having a way to do this idea of a digital felt board would allow me to take and create some interesting little animations that I might be able to put in my class or intersperse in one of my slideshows. In my case, the use case for it was I needed something that separated a complex system into simple pieces, and the idea of a felt board worked out really, really well. So I hope this was something that was helpful to you. It's just an idea I tried it, and it actually worked out pretty nicely. I can see a couple uses for it, and it's nothing more than having Google Slides and using your screencaster with it. So hopefully that's helpful information for you.